Welcome to Black Conscious Nation, The Awakening. Family, today we bring before you President Muhammad Ali of Guyana. He was featured on a morning talk show, the British talk show, and it's very interesting how they handled our president. But we will see, and we'll discuss after. So let's get right into the video.
Really interesting story because he is backing the growing calls for descendants of slave traders from the UK to pay significant reparations to right historical wrongs. He's demanding that those involved in the transatlantic slave trade be posthumously charged for crimes against humanity.
This is a big topic at the moment. It's being discussed around the world. Guyana President Mohamed Irfan Ali joins us live now from New York, where he's going to be addressing world leaders at the UN General Assembly on this subject later today. So we've got in early with you. OK, let me ask you a question, Mr. President, on behalf of all of our viewers who would be covered by this. Why should somebody who maybe had an ancestor 7 or 8 generations ago, long before they were a twinkle in their great-great-great-great-grandparents' eye, why should they have to pay now for what an ancient ancestor did? Or why should they apologise for what an ancestor did centuries ago? Why do they still carry that burden?
Oh, it's not a burden at all. You are one of the beneficiaries of that slave trade. So this is not a burden. You should be concerned, and you should pay, because you today are still benefiting from the greatest indignity to a human being, and that is the slave trade. And not only did you benefit during the slave trade and your country developed, but look at what it caused the developing world. During slavery, resources was used to build your country, build up your capacity. You were able to then become competitive. You were able to invest in mechanization, and developing countries like ours were left behind. So you should be very concerned, because you are a prime beneficiary of the exploits of slavery.
So put a figure on it, please, because it always comes down to the bottom line. How much should an individual taxpayer in a country like the UK be signing a cheque to a country like yours, Ghana?
Well, it's easy to calculate. We can use the time value of money. You can look at the period of slavery and the contribution well, not the contribution, the extraction of wealth from countries like ours, and how it was utilized to build your society, build your country, create wealth in your country, and then add the time value of money, and you will get the value. There's a lot of research paper on this. A lot of universities would have done paper on this. There's enough literature to tell us what that value is. But I want to say that it is not only the value, it is the loss of time. It is a loss of competitiveness. It is a loss of human dignity. It is a loss of our education system. It is the culture that we lost. It is all of this indignity that surrounded slavery that we must consider.
I just wonder, people will be wondering what, you explain that there are calculations, but are you able to say in what measure that would be? I mean, are we talking billions, millions? What would you expect the payout to be, and over what period of time? Well,
you know, this year in Guyana, we commemorate the 200th anniversary of the Demerara Rebellion. And it took 200 years to get an apology from one of the families. I don't believe that you would want us to wait 200 years for reparative justice and for us to take this conversation forward. CARICOM would have set out a 10-point plan on what should constitute reparative justice and what should constitute reparation. And the calculation goes into billions for the region.
How far back, though, do we have to go on this? Because you make the point, we're talking exclusively here about Western imperialistic slavery, to summarise it. But almost every civilization on the planet owes its existence and its prosperity almost always to crimes in the past, be they aggressive wars, be they different forms of slavery involving different movements of population. You can go right back to the Greeks and the Romans. Why just target one particular era in history? Some would say that's the arguments of political convenience. It's a handy handle to hang your argument on.
I think you're doing a great injustice to compare slavery with any other of the historical facts that you're mentioning.
I was including other forms of slavery. No, but I was including other examples of slavery as well.
To the indignity that slavery brought to people, that is the first thing. And I'll give you an example. Coming on to your program a few moments ago, you were speaking about net zero and climate justice. We are speaking about, the world is speaking today about climate justice and compensation and how we address the issues of climate change. And this is the problem. We live in a very unjust society. You know, we condemn completely the war in Ukraine. But if you look at the mobilization of resources in the war in Ukraine, in 2 years, you have mobilized more support for Ukraine than we have mobilized for Haiti for 60 years. You have mobilized more support for Ukraine than we have mobilized for Palestine for 20 years. You have mobilized more support for Ukraine in just 1.5 years than we mobilized to address the issue of hunger in Africa for 3 years. And that is the type of unjust way we have been dealing with these crises. And we are not going to tolerate the injustice that occurred during slavery to be compared with any other system. Slavery, we all agree, was the greatest injustice ever done to human beings. So we should not ever try to compare this to any other system.
No.
There is no other system that has created greater injustice than slavery and indignity to humankind in slavery.
President Ali.
Very briefly now, because we're over time here, and I know you've got to go and we've got to move on as well, but very briefly, coming back to where we came in, one of the points you're going to be making today is about our royal family. And you feel that it's not just about the finances involved here in terms of reparations for slavery, it's about the gestures. And you think that the British royal family should make a big gesture, don't you? What do you mean? Hand over a palace to your country?
Well, no, we don't want the British to hand over a palace that we built. You know, if you go into many of the palaces in Britain, you will see the lovely green heartwood from Guyana. You will see the sweat, tears, and blood of the slaves who were exploited.
So what do you want?
And the revenue that was earned from their exploitation. So we're not asking for a palace. We're asking for justice and a fair form of justice to the ancestors and to the greatest injustice that has ever been done to human beings.
We look forward to
We're not asking for palaces. You can enjoy the palace, and when we visit you, we'll also enjoy it.
Mr. President, we really look forward to your speech later on today to the UN. I'm sure there'll be much coughing and shuffling of feet, because when it comes to getting people to put their hands in their back pockets, you've got a mountain to climb. But you make some very interesting arguments. Thank you for your time. Thanks for the preview. We appreciate it.
President of Guyana.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Family, the question some people ask, who is reparations for? Well, that's very easy to answer. President Mohammed made it clear that anybody who's direct descendants of the Atlantic slave trade. When we came to the Americas is North America, South America. Those are very important. That slaves were taken, and all in the Caribbean, they was dropped off. And as soon as they got off the ship, they was brutalized. They started whipping them, trying to make them obedient, make them docile. These books, there's many books about this, and you really should educate yourselves because it's important that we understand the legacy we come from, the strength, the people who we really are. You know, in 1619, when the slaves landed here in America, you know, it's amazing how that their methods didn't change. Their methods were the same. They're always to divide and conquer, break the African male, break him, make him see the horrendous thing that happened to his family, his wife, his mother, his auntie, his daughters, his sons, and made him feel powerless. The whole method of docileness is important that we recognize that. We are mighty warriors from the past. Why am I bringing these things up? Well, let's get into it. There's always political aspects of what is what and everything. But the truth of the matter is, we need reparations for the African diaspora. It is important that we say we want it and we want it now. As this presidential election is happening, we need to push for this. We need to remove the qualified immunity from these cops. We need reparations, remove the qualified immunity, and there's some other things. It's not a discussion anymore. It's a fact. We want it and we want it now. And the question always is, why should we give you reparations? It wasn't us who done these things. Well, again, President Muhammad Ali explained it very well in the video. I couldn't do it no better. He did it well. And if you have any questions, go back to the video and watch it. Short video, just go through it. We need to stop playing these games. We deserve to be compensated for our suffrage, not just ours presently, but our ancestors. Learn the history, then you will understand why we demand these things. And one of the things I learned about schools, they make it so watered down. We call it whitewash. You know, it's not saying because of white people. It's whitewash mean you're trying to make it look pure and clean. There is no pureness. There is no cleanness in slavery. The Atlantic slave trade was a most wicked and heinous act in humanity. All the wars you look at now is nowhere near what we've seen as slave trade for all those hundreds of years. So please don't compare that. And I don't denounce, or I won't say that people who are suffering, those are sufferings that happen to people today. We can't deny that either. And it's wrong, it's wicked, it's heinous, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop. All these wars going on right now in 2024, we need to find some way to stop that. But I have scars that are older than anybody else's. We, the Black diaspora, we have scars that are so deep, and they want us just to forget about it. Well, we can't act like it didn't happen because we're still suffering. Black diaspora, it's time that you hold your politicians clearly accountable for their behavior. It's time for the elections to get hot. Hot literally means you get these politicians and you said, we want reparations, we want qualified immunity removed from the police officers, just to touch the police officers. I am not saying all police officers are bad. I personally know 3 chiefs in major cities, and I respect them, okay? And I have relationship with police officers all over the 3 states that I know I hang out in. But guess what? The truth of the matter, even they know there's some wicked police officers out there. And you know, let me be very clear about this too. Whether you're Black, Asian, or whatever nationality you are, if you're a police officer with a badge, if you're a woman too, if you're a woman or LGBTQ and you have that badge on and you do heinous and wicked things to people, you are the ones we're talking about. We need you to remove your qualified immunity and you have no protection and you will have to answer for your crimes to humanity. This must stop. It must stop here and now. And the only way we have to stop that we hold people accountable for their behaviors. We need legislation to make this change happen. Remove the qualified immunity and we want reparations. All that must be back on the table. And just watch this. It's none of this, we'll see what happens when I get in office. We've done that the last 4 years. I'm done with that. We want a plan of action now. We want to see your plan and we want to see how you will execute it. And then only may we support you in office. I don't care what party you belong to. And as I always say, whether you're Democrat or Republican, you're all kissing cousins. I'm looking for the best interest for the Black diaspora right now. We demand some type of restoration of the suffrage of our people. Well, family, as you've seen the video, you've seen how the Good Morning Show on the Brit side handled the president, how disrespectful they were. But you know what? He handled himself well. A true warrior, a camper, a truth man. So what I want to point out some things is that it's important that we understand why do we want reparations. And if you watch that video in entirety, you learn why we want it. It's not something that we should ask for, we may get. It's something we demand, and it's our right. But if it wasn't clear enough for you, let me make it a little bit more clear. Anybody who is a direct descendant of the Atlantic slave trade, you deserve the right for reparations. Doesn't matter what country you live in, doesn't matter what continent you live in. If you are a direct descendant of the Atlantic slave trade, you and your family deserve the right for reparations. On that note, I bid you well from Black Conscious Nation. Peace and Black love. Vote with a Black conscience. Peace.